Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. So this may not really appeal to the fellas, um, but you can I don't have a problem with you listening in on this because women will do a lot of things to alter their appearance to look their best, even if it is painful, if you have to wait long hours, if you have to be somewhat patient before you see the results. But sometimes these beauty regimens can be extremely dangerous to our health. So I I know I've seen and heard of some crazy stuff, but some people will probably be really familiar with this because they've had it done themselves or they still are in fact doing this. They have women who will tint and dye their eyebrows and microblade their eyebrows and tint and dye eyelashes. It's the same thing when you see women that will sit and have their eyebrow hairs plucked out and it's painful, or they'll have it ripped off with wax or removed or waxing, and it you can hear the sound, sounds like somebody's ripping your skin off. But um, some people are really, they know people who are professional and they that are safe to go to these places. And then even if you know professionals, or even if you're good about doing these things on your own, it can come with risk. And so a lot of people will do things to their eyebrows or their eyes. And there's 5 eyebrow tinting side effects to be aware of before you reach for the dye. So apparently there are women who do a lot of eyebrow dyeing. Now, I don't know if I've seen a lot of this happen in the African American community of women, but I wouldn't doubt that there are women that are Black that are doing this as well. But I've seen a lot of this in Latin community, with Latina women. I've seen it happen a lot with white women where they dye the eyebrows or they tint the eyebrows to be the same hair color as the hair they're wearing, their hairstyle they're wearing. So there's 5 eyebrow tinting side effects to be aware of. And so apparently it's a big thing. Some people may say they've had it done for so long, it's not as big a deal. They've seen this and they know they've had these type of side effects. But light hair dye or a light hair, dark eyebrows look, um, if you dye your hair, you're inevitably going to want to tint your eyebrow. Yeah, it looks like their eyebrows are the same color as the hair on their head, and so they try to match everything up. But as with any process that involves putting foreign objects near your eyeballs, there is some concern about the safety and side effects of this type of thing called eyebrow tinting, especially considering the process isn't FDA approved. Now that's important to know. So a lot of women have done this, or at least I've seen several, but it's not even approved by FDA. So there's semi-permanent eyebrow tinting, and that's known as the kind that is done with an actual hair dye, not cleverly applied eye pencil. So it can be done at home, but to get the best results, it says avoid potentially blinding yourself. It's recommended that you test it out at a salon. And I would bet that a lot of women aren't going to salons to have this done. I haven't seen really anybody, confessing that they went to a salon to have their eyebrows dyed. It's usually something they're doing at home. So the dye can last anywhere from a few months to 10 years, depending on how strong the pigment is that you use. So to be sure to double check with the salon before they put it on you, you aren't stuck with a bleach blonde eyebrows for longer than what you want them to be. So it looks though, when I see women having it done, that they do it regular and they do it in different colors. So they change up the color depending on how they change their hair dye. So there are a few ways to avoid the risk associated with eyebrow tinting. So the first and foremost is you're less apt to get hurt if you leave the dyeing to the trained professionals, which a lot of people aren't doing, I believe, instead of trying to do it at home yourself. So choose a vegetable base or natural dye, which has fewer chemicals and is less likely to irritate the skin, though make sure you check the label. So there have been cases of salon claiming that dyes are natural and they really are filled with tar and harmful substances. So if you wear contact lenses, be sure to take them off before the procedure. And so these are some of the side effects. There's skin infections that come along with it. Dyeing the hair on your eyebrows also dyes the skin underneath, and it's part of what makes them look darker or lighter. So possible effects on the skin include dermatitis, a fancy name for a rash, uh, granulomas, which are small areas of inflamed tissue. And because the skin around your eyes is incredibly sensitive, it's important to know exactly what's in the dye that you're using before you go use it on your face. So take the time to read the label and it will help you in the long run. There's also burning of the eyes. And here you see some cotton balls. I guess that's something that they may use to help to dye the eyebrows and what have you. But if any of the dye gets into your eyes as a result of a horrible burning sensation, it is very painful, very, very painful, because, you know, there are horrible chemicals that will get in your eyes. And this is due to the 3% peroxide in the solutions, which is basically a part of a bleach. So it's like putting bleach in the eyes. So if this happens, splash cold water in the eyes and put water-soaked cotton balls on them to soothe the burning. So these are things that are really, really dangerous that some women will do to go at lengths to look a particular way or to appeal to males or whomever, their friends, so they can look, I guess, what they would say their best. So Bausch and Lomb Soothe Lubricant Eye Drops, which I guess they sell it on Amazon. That's like a solution that you rinse the eyes with. It's if the chemicals come in contact with the delicate cornea of your eye, there is a serious risk of infection. So conjunctivitis is a condition in which the skin covering the eyeball becomes inflamed and turns red, and it basically looks like you have a pink eye. So to keep your eyes clean during the process, carry saline solution and put drops in the eyes to wash out the chemicals. Remember to keep the eyes closed when you're doing this. You can also get allergies from the beauty products, and that you may have an allergic reaction to certain tints. And so before you use certain dyes, it says you have to do a patch test before the procedure. So apply a small patch to color to the skin on your arm or your neck and leave it on overnight. And I guess that's the way you see. If you see the skin breaking out or sort of a rash or a hive, then you can opt out using that dye, or stick with shading your eyebrows with temporary makeup would be probably something you would do as an alternative. So you can also cause blindness. And this is pretty serious. So whenever you put chemicals in the eye or eye areas, especially those harsh ones found in many eyebrow dyes, you're putting yourself at risk for blindness, point blank. So it won't matter how perfect you've tinted your eyebrows, or if you can't see them at all because you're blind. So please color with care, they say, which is very risky, and people don't really realize that's what they're doing. So it says here that there's a rare chance that any of the side effects will occur, but it's always a good idea to know what you're getting yourself into. As beautiful as a tinted eyebrow might be, safety should be the number one concern, which a lot of people won't do. Blindness, that's pretty serious among all the other things, having allergic reactions. And so the same thing also applies when you apply hair dye into the hair in the scalp. Some people will put a lot of different colors, a lot of different permanents, a lot of different tints and things like that, and they don't know what the reactions are going to be. They're taking a risk. It might be better not to do it on a regular basis. For what I know is that, I know that some women who have had some bad experiences have said that the dyes and chemicals that are in the dyes have created a problem over the years. As they've gotten older, they've had cancer or developed cancer from the hair dyes. And so I don't think a lot of women realize that until they start getting older, that you're constantly putting these chemicals, they're going into the pores of your hair scalp. And so that is also going straight to your brain. And so it's creating problems so I've seen some women where they've complained that they've developed cancer behind it. And so I don't think women realize all of the things that they do to try to look a particular way could have some really horrible effects in the long run. So there's also not only eyebrow tinting, there's eyelash dyeing. And so you can see here an eyelash tinting procedure being done on these women here. So there's a before and after, and some people have done it, but it also says that tinting might become illegal in the US. And so it says, I love brow tinting, but millions of people love brow tinting. But it turns out that we might have to give up the treatments of darkening our arches and lashes very soon, thanks to the new regulations that have somehow been flying under the radar. So it says that it's illegal in California for a licensed professional, and it goes on, there's an article, and it's probably illegal because of the health issue of it, I would bet. And so it says that if you eyebrow and lash tint, it might become illegal in the US. And so this right here goes on to talk about it. It says that, licensed professionals that do your eyebrows or lash tint in their profession or in their salon, and to administer a tint anywhere near the eyes, it said it could be illegal in California for even these people who are trained to do these procedures. Technically, the service is no longer allowed to be caught in or to be taught in the cosmetology schools either. So according to the California Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, so in the statement issued in R29, the group reported that the FDA has informed the board. Now, this is where the FDA comes in at, that currently the additives used in eyelash or eyebrow tints are not approved. So I just read that from one of the previous articles. So some women, I've seen them, they'll have like their eyebrows to match their hair dye. And so what they're doing is dyeing the hair, and then whatever little dye left, they take like a little, maybe an old toothbrush that's clean, of course, none that they've used, and they use it to help dye the eyebrows, and they'll probably run it across the eyebrow hairs and dye the eyebrows. But it is dangerous because it is not FDA approved. So it says the additives in that, it's not been approved, and unless it's been approved by FDA, the California Code of Regulations doesn't allow any education or treatment in the schools. So shocked we were too. So some people don't even realize this. So we were only alerted to the issue this week after many brow artists began voicing their concerns. So I believe some people specifically asked their licensed, hairstylists and stuff to do these procedures, but it's outlawed supposedly. So explaining that more and more professionals are being fined by the board and risk losing their license for tinting in salons like this to do this type of tinting, of course. You can only do it on the hair. So as you might expect, the question on safety is at play. So there are several concerns about the unregulated dye near the eyes. Dermatologist Karen Grossman, MD, points out that one is that it can affect the skin, causing irritation and inflammation, possible allergic reactions, and the other is that it may affect the eyeball area. So even when carefully placed, it is especially lash tint that will seep into the eyebrow, or seep into the eyes rather, and it makes it dangerous. So the doctors and the FDA want to make sure that there is no possible way that they can cause irritation, inflammation, and damage the eyes altogether, possibly blind a person. So one obvious question we got is from the eyebrow artist that they spoke with, and why now? The eyebrow and lash tinting industry has exploded. So it's a big popular thing, and it's exploded because people request it and they like the look. So over the past few years, seemingly with no problems, but dermatologist Michael Swan, MD, counters the FDA getting involved at this point may really point to problems they are seeing from consumers. So people who are having problems. Now, I want to really quickly get off of this because pretty much it's saying everything that I've already said. You know, who does it affect? All this kind of stuff. So this is going into the legalities and who it affects. So however, at least in the state of California, the enforcement is very new. So California board told us that the enforcement didn't go into effect in its current from July 1st, 2015. Each state, as you are likely to gather, differs in both regulation and enforcement of the rules. So when asked to comment on the record, numerous brow artists, brick and mortar brands understandably decline, of course, because they're probably still doing the procedure. And I have seen women with their eyebrows, you know, done like this. They probably request it and they'll say, you know, I'm not going to tell on you or whatever. If you do it, you know, just do what you normally do. Most have pulled the service and then from their website and are nervous to advertise tinting at all. So however, this hasn't seemed to have had an impact on the online sale of tinting products. So they still sell the products. People probably buy it online. They do it at home themselves, like what I've seen women do, despite the fact that nearly all eyebrow artists say that DIY route is much more dangerous. So in the statement of 2011, from 2011, the FDA reported serious concern over eyebrow and lash tints arriving in Europe via website orders. So it goes on, it says, so what's in the dye that is so bad? So this actually talks about what's in the dyes and severity of all of it. I'm going to flip over or skip over rather. And so it says aesthetics caught, okay, FDA aesthetics caught tinting through random or planned inspection or consumer complaints will be subject to a fine, $500 fine or worse. Okay, so so until someone creates a formula that gets it approved by FDA. So anybody that tries to do this can be fined of $500 or, you know, whatever other worse things could come out of that. And so here's the main things that I had talked about in the previous. So rumors swirling around the beauty pro community in LA, Los Angeles, named coal tar as the culprit. And it turns out that it could be true. So in the statement, the FDA said that coal tar represented an acute, severe hazard to the health, the possibility of permanent injuries. So an example, impaired sight, including blindness. Those are the more serious things that can happen outside of like rashes and skin rashes and what have you, and allergens. So why the hell, as it states, hasn't anyone remedied this? According to one pro we spoke to, creating a dye without coal tar is very, very difficult. So that's the problem they're having. So California board has told this, if the manufacturer produces a product that the FDA will approve, then cosmetologists would be able to perform the service. So far, they have not found anything that can remedy this whole situation. So I'm going to quickly, the reason why I'm jumping around really quick, because basically it's saying the same thing, but This is more serious. There's a such thing called microblading. And microblading this is the effects that it has done. There was something that happened on the news where a woman was complaining about she had this skin infection around her eyebrows. So the woman says she got serious infection after getting her eyebrows microbladed. And microblading, it looks like this woman, she was also hospitalized, and it was a nightmare. So she's pictured here. It says woman hospitalized after eyebrow nightmare of microblading. And so the woman says, it's in the Insider, it's in the NBC Chicago, and in the Sun. So it left her with pus-filled blisters, and her eyes were swollen shut after the microblading happened. So I'm going to go to the Sun and read part of it, not the whole thing, because I'm just generally going to show the picture. So I believe maybe it looks like as though she was having the hairs plucked out a certain way, but maybe a more permanent fix. So the woman was left with pus-filled blisters and eyebrows swollen shut after brow microblading went horribly wrong. So this is her picture here, saying that beauty is pain, but this kind of pain I don't want. So certainly rings true that this woman who had an extreme allergic reaction to microblading. So some women might have had it and it didn't have a reaction this bad, but this woman did. And so this is what it did to her eyes. And so a lot of people don't realize. So it says the Detroit woman shared the horrific pictures of her incident. So there's, I guess, 4 pictures of it. But, you know, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. But apparently the procedure looks like this. And it's something like with little needles. Microblading is hugely popular, and yet it's invasive cosmetic treatment. So while the patient is expected to make a full recovery, it is currently unclear what caused the life-threatening infection. So this is what happened with her eyes. I guess it's her pictured here. She doesn't give her name, of course. And so I'm just going to go through that and see the pictures. So women get a lot of stuff done to try to look a particular way, and even if it's very risky. So this right here, it says the woman was left with pus-filled blisters after the treatment. So it's very, very bad. You see how it looks. So she probably had to have like antibiotics, I would believe. So here we go here. I think this is like a little ad or whatever.
Kids first, all kids.
No bureaucracy allowed.
Apply red tape. Discover how charter public schools are redefining education. California charter schools, public, free, open to all.
A few days after, I noticed that they were starting to get like little lumps in it.
The pain began to increase and the swelling.
Going to urgent care, they diagnosed me with cellulitis on my face and gave me an antibiotic and sent me on my way.
But the situation kept getting worse. Jennifer took daily photos to document. She decided to head to the emergency room.
And when they admitted me, they put me on an IV antibiotic. And then the next morning, they started me on steroids.
Jennifer spent 3 days in the hospital.
I was terrified. Terrified. I didn't, you know, my face is swelling up. My eyes are closing. I'm thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. And
hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
It looks a little better. So you're putting on the cream?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better.
For the past week, Jennifer has been seeing dermatologist Dr. Stephen Brecken for treatment.
This is potentially life-threatening if not treated, because what's right behind here? Sinuses. What do the sinuses communicate? Boom, they go right to the brain.
So that's pretty serious. So ladies, if you're out there and you're trying to do these things to look good, stop it. It's not worth losing your eyesight and losing your vision to try to look good for probably people that are not even really worth looking a particular way. You probably already look, and a lot of times the women that are doing this, they don't look bad. They already have nice eyebrows, or they already have a nice features about it. It's like they're trying to, like, I guess, look a particular, change their look up or whatever. And I don't know why. This is what I've always wanted to question, is a lot of times women will do things to themselves because they don't like something about themselves. But when you see them, it's I don't see anything wrong. And it's usually the women where really they don't need to change anything, but they're doing so much to change stuff, and it is dangerous. So that's my take on it, but it's not worth all of this. But anyway, with that being said, this is pretty much the video. It's like, do you really have to go through all of this to infect yourself or to almost make yourself blind to try to look a particular way? And this is any woman, you know, it's really not worth all of this at all. But anyway, with that being said, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening.